Hi, everybody. I'm Tracy Huckle. I am the Executive Director at Green Action Center, and I would like to welcome everybody who's joined us today and thank you for taking this time to be with us on Earth Day, which happens to be a beautiful day today. I would like to acknowledge that we are located on Treaty 1 territory, the ancestral lands of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and the homeland of the Métis Nation, and that the water we are privileged to access comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation on Treaty 3 territory. Green Action Center respects the treaties that were signed, and we recognize that harms and mistakes have been made. And we know that reconciliation means action, not just words. So we are focusing on learning how to practice reconciliation in our everyday work, including how to collaborate in partnership with First Nations and Indigenous peoples, and to take collective responsibility to protect the environment and ensure that we have a healthy and sustainable community in Manitoba. For those of you who may be new to Green Action Center, I'm going to take a few minutes to just provide a quick overview of who we are and what we do, and then I'll share an overview of what the panel session will look like today. One quick note is just to try to make sure that you do keep your microphones muted until the panel presentations are done, and then we'll have some time for Q&A and for our breakout session. But before we go any further, we would like to start everybody off by doing a quick poll to help us gauge where you're at, what your knowledge is of Green Action Center. So I'm just going to launch the poll right now. And you'll see that there are two questions, actually. One is how familiar you are with Green Action Center. And then the other one is what you're most interested in learning about today. So if you could answer both of those questions and then hit your response, and I'll give you about a minute to do that. I'll let you know when we've got enough, it looks like enough folks have voted, and then I'll share that response with you. So we're at about 25% right now. I'll maybe give it about another 30 seconds. It's not a contest, don't worry. Okay, we're up to about 50%. A few more secs. And yes, that is a live rooster in the background for anyone who can hear that. I am outside. Okay, I think we're over 50% right now, so I'm going to end it. And we'll get a sense of where everybody is at. So I'll share the results with you just so you can see at this point in time, in terms of the responses that we do have on a scale of 1 to 10, how familiar folks are with Green Action Center. And it's great, we can see that there's a bunch of folks that have at least a good knowledge of us, and then some folks who are new. So we're going to tell you a little bit more about what it is that we do, and then you'll be more familiar with us. And great to also see in terms of areas of interest that there's some really good diversity here, and we have got a number of panelists talking about different things, so that should be great. Now, just have to close the poll. There we go. Okay, so Green Action Center has actually been around for over 35 years. We are your green living hub, and we work to help Manitobans live green and to live well. We take a positive, hopeful approach to help Manitobans implement practical solutions at home, work, and school. But we also want to stress that there's an urgent need for climate action and no time to waste. So we're really glad that you're here with us today. Our primary focuses are on waste reduction and sustainable transportation, and our staff on the panel today are going to tell you more about the specific programs that we work in and what we offer, and also how they help Manitobans live more sustainably. We also do policy and advocacy work, which will help ensure, of course, that the laws and policies and that government is actually working to facilitate sustainability and climate resilience in the province. In terms of our Earth Day panel session, we have 5 panelists from Green Action Centre, and we also have our General Manager, Robin Bryan, from our social enterprise Compost Winnipeg here with us today as a special guest. Each of the panelists is going to take up to about 5 minutes to introduce themselves, tell you a little bit about themselves, discuss some of their program areas, and share some green tips or ideas to help you live more sustainably. If you have questions as the panelists are speaking, I encourage you to type them into the chat box. And the chat box you will find right at the bottom of the Zoom screen. Just make sure when you're typing it that it's to everybody so everyone can see it so they know if a question's already been asked or not. And then we'll get to those questions a little bit later. After that, we will have our breakout for the Q&A. And if we don't get to your question in the Q&A session, we also have a session where we're doing breakout rooms, so where you can dive into the discussions that are of more interest to you a little bit deeper and have a discussion at that point in time as well. And then we'll come back to the main room and we'll do a quick wrap up. Hopefully at that point in time, you'll have a sense of a new call to action or commitment that you would like to take forward as part of your Earth Day pledge today. So without further delay, I will introduce you to our first panelist, which is Colleen Ans, who is our Living Green, Living Well coordinator. Colleen?
Awesome. Thank you very much, Tracy. As Tracy mentioned, I'm the Living Green, Living Well coordinator, and I represent the plastic waste reduction and green living program here at Green Action Centre. A little bit about myself. I grew up in rural Manitoba on my family's acreage, where I believe my love for animals, nature, and the environment began. I moved to Winnipeg 6 years ago. I have a background in business admin, and I studied permaculture at the Center for Creative Ecology in Israel. And ultimately, that landed me here at Green Action Centre in October of last year. So through the Living Green, Living Well program, we offer resources, events, and presentations, most which are virtual right now. And these help Manitobans incorporate green living into their lifestyle. And some of the more prominent events and initiatives we have are Plastic Free July, which is coming up in a couple months. And this is a month-long challenge to individuals to reduce their plastic consumption. We also have Waste Reduction Week in October, where we, along with many other environmental organizations, share resources and tips on how to reduce your waste through mending, repairing, and sharing. And thanks to the support of Safe at Home Manitoba, we were able to expand our Prairie Dog Project initiative this year. And that served as an online resource for families and people of all ages to find practical and creative eco projects to do at home by using common materials found around the house that would otherwise go to waste. We also have our online Green Living Guide, which includes green living tips to use at work, at home, and at school. So if you're looking for an example of how to incorporate green living into your everyday life starting today, for beginners, and even if you're not a beginner, I would say number one would be to refuse. Refuse things like single-use plastics, takeout cutlery, plastic bags, straws, anything like that. Anything you don't actually need or can't use again. And be prepared to say no to these things. So bring your own reusable bag. Carry a pouch of cutlery in your backpack or in your purse or whatever you have on hand. Have those things so that you're ready when the time comes to say no and you have something to replace that with. If you're looking for a little bit of a more advanced step in sustainability, I would say to limit plastic packaging altogether. This is a focus of Plastic Free July. When you're in the store, opting for something that is in glass versus plastic, or opting for no plastic and using your produce bag. You can cook at home to reduce packaging and introduce more vegetables, and eating a plant-rich diet also helps. So that's all from me for now, and I'm going to pass it on to Teresa.
Thank you. I'm in our composting program, and we talk a lot about all the different ways to keep organics out of the landfill. So organics, not just the organic section at the grocery store, but anything that can rot. And so I'm framing it like that, not just as composting, because the production of our food has a lot of impacts along the entire cycle, from growing to harvesting and processing and distribution and packaging and then disposal. So we do a lot of work around food waste reduction as well as around composting. We've got some really exciting stuff coming up because it's almost Compost Awareness Week. So I want to just tell you about that before I give you kind of our tips on what you can do waste-wise on top of what Colleen suggested. So coming up from May 2 to 8 is Compost Awareness Week. So we're very excited. We have a really great lineup of webinars for you. The first one is probably the one I'm most excited about. We've got Audrey Logan as a guest speaker. And for those of you who don't know her, she's based in Winnipeg, and she's a Nehiyah Cree Métis woman, and she's very knowledgeable about permaculture gardening and Indigenous ways of composting. So she's going to share her knowledge with us. And then we have more sessions, basic backyard composting, a session on how to make and use compost tea, and a whole one just on food waste. If you want some really good tips on how to reduce your food waste and save over $1,000 a year if you're a typical family, check that out. So those are coming up. And throughout the year, we have lots of stuff going on. October is a big month for us with Waste Reduction Week, so you can watch for that. And COVID permitting, we'll hopefully be running our Master Composter volunteer training program again in the fall. So if you want to really become a champion in your community around small-scale composting, that's a really great program to look into. We give you lots of tools and training and then support you as you go out and find opportunities to share that knowledge. Because you're here today, I'm assuming you're interested in reducing your waste. So my biggest encouragement for you, my tip, my challenge, is try doing a waste audit on yourself. So this, I was supposed to come up with a basic sort of an intro tip and a more advanced tip. This one's 2-in-1, because whether you're just starting out on trying to figure out how you can reduce your waste, or whether you've been trying for a while and you want to sort of check in and see where you're at and see what the next step is, a waste audit is just so insightful. It gives you so much information about yourself. So how do you do a waste audit on yourself? I recommend that you pick about a week. One day won't give you enough of a picture of your waste, and a month might feel overwhelming, but feel free to go for a month if you're up for it. Take a week and collect all your garbage for a week. Everything that's going to leave your house as waste versus being reused. I suggest that you collect it in roughly 3 separate containers. You can split it into more, but 3 keeps it simple, so that you don't have to, at the end of the week, dump it all out on a tarp and sort it by hand, because that might be kind of gross. So collect it in 3 different categories. Organics, so anything that can rot, stuff that's going to go to the recycling. So if you're in Winnipeg, that's anything that goes in the blue bin or could be recycled through other channels, and then anything that's going to the landfill. At the end of the week, weigh them out. See how much you've produced in each category and do a mental check of how much did I throw out? Where was it going to go? And what are the sources of the waste that's going in there? So I know for me, one of my family's biggest sources of waste is filmy plastic food packaging. So that's something that I'm working on trying to figure out how to reduce. Once you've done all that, then you can figure out where's my biggest impact and work on that. So for me, again, the filmy packaging, for you, it might be food waste or something else entirely. So I would really encourage you to do some form of waste audit on yourself. And then if you really want to push yourself further, see how close you can get to no organics in the landfill from your household. So that might mean that if you already compost, you need to take one more step and try a new kind of composting. If you've got a backyard bin, maybe you want to try to compost your meat and bones and dairy. So you want to get a digester or start bokashi composting. So I'd encourage you to try something new, try to compost something that you've never composted before and find a way to do that. So there's two good challenges for you. And I'll pass it off to Chantal from our First Nations Waste Minimization Program.
Good afternoon. My name is Chantal Henderson. I'd like to welcome everybody. My name is, I already said my name. I'm Ojibwe. I am the Indigenous Programs Outreach Coordinator for the First Nations Waste Minimization Project here at the Green Action Center. I am from Sagin First Nation and Penang First Nations. And I am Wolf Clan, and my spirit name is Sacred Tree Woman. So I've been the Indigenous Programs Outreach Coordinator for about almost a year and a half, and it's been a wonderful experience. A lot of changes have been happening. It just started after the, well, my first, I guess, focus on was basically, well, I guess I should back up. The First Nations Waste Minimization Project. So I'm just going to back up on there. Presentation. Sorry, I'm just trying to grab my presentation. Okay, so First Nations Waste Minimization Project. Basically, it started back in January 2018. It started with an advisory committee, which composed of ISC, GAC, Manitoba Government, PRO, and an Indigenous Knowledge Keeper. Another program we have here is called the Pathfinders Community Program, and they basically work with communities in diversion efforts through assistance with landfill recycling operations in Northern First Nation communities. They work on helping those communities get funding, and they do a lot of community engagement. My aspect, basically I do the education portion. So I focus on planning the Teachers Conference and the RISE webinar presentation, as well as community events, public engagement, and helping with language translation. So that is in summary of what First Nations Waste Minimization Project does. Currently, the Pathfinders program, they are working with 8 communities, 7 right now. They are Blood Vein First Nation, Buffalo Point First Nation, Fisher River Cree Nation, Peguis First Nation, Garden Hill First Nation, St. Teresa Point First Nation, Wasagimac First Nation. And yeah, there's a lot of work happening up there in waste diversion. What we recommend before communities or municipalities are interested in working with First Nation communities is to consider culture. So we recommend you do your homework before you work with the community, find out about them, what they're about, their maybe a bit of their history, build those relationships with them first of all. Start with the posture of listening, and do not talk over and try to listen with, because that's what Creator gave us, 2 ears to one mouth. So yeah, we also recommend being culturally relevant. Just be aware of the culture. Some communities are Ojibwe, some are Dene, Dakota, Oji Cree, and so forth, and Cree. So just get the information down pat before you are interested in working with the First Nation community. Don't expect volunteering, and try to hire people from the community to work with the community and provide those local jobs. There are different communication styles, flexibility, things will change depending on the budgets. And yeah, if there's more information you wanted to know about that, the Pathfinders are Cesar Flores and Amy Smith, and Beth McKechnie, who will be speaking after me, is also part of our team. So my focus on the education part will be presentations. Due to COVID, we weren't able to go up north last year to do presentations. So we're looking at doing them virtually, and basically ending grades from nursery to grade 12 we can do presentations on waste reduction and environmental sustainability, and just getting the word out, being aware with what we can help you with. RISE basically started in 2019. It stands for Recognizing Indigenous Sustainable Education. The Teachers Conference came out of that in 2019, and it went well. There's a lot of tours, a lot of events here in Winnipeg, and basically teachers are invited from northern communities that GAC, or First Nations Waste Minimization Project, works with, and we get them to learn about all the different opportunities and programs available out here. Because the conference has been canceled last year, we switched it to a RISE webinar series. And we had about 6 presentations last year. I condensed them into like 2 presentations per day over 3 days. And basically a variety of topics we covered was Manitoba Envirothon, school composting, 7th generation waste warriors, vermicomposting, a demo, Northern Schools Backhaul Project, food security sovereignty. And that was last year. This year, we just wrapped up our 2021 RISE webinar series, and we focused on, once again, school composting with a northern focus. Last year was urban here in Winnipeg. There was a presentation from the Helen Betty Osborne Ininu Education Resource Center on their green team and their school garden. We also had one of our coworkers here, Joseph, do a presentation on a school waste audit and how you can get your school involved in doing that. We also had a climate action panel, outdoor education in Waiwasakapo, and land-based education camp. So my purpose was basically with that is to basically, you know, educate, empower, promote First Nation activities regarding waste reduction and environmental sustainability. So if you're want more information about that or want to get in touch with us, you can reach us at fnwm@greenactioncenter.ca. So thank you. And I'll pass it on to Beth.
Thanks, Chantal. That was great. Nice summary. We cover so much stuff that it's hard to summarize it into one little bit. But so yes, I work with the First Nations Waste Minimization team, but I also work with the Sustainable Transportation team here at Green Action Center. And I've been doing that for over 15 years now, which is kind of hard to believe. It's gone by so fast. But in addition to my work at Green Action Center, there's also some other activities I've been involved with that are connected but separate, like creating the first bike map for Winnipeg back in 1999, and helping to co-found and launch Peg City Car Co-op, which introduced car sharing to Winnipeg. So I truly appreciate personally how difficult it can be to change your transportation habits in Winnipeg. We went from a 2-car family to a 1-car family to now we rely on Peg City Car Co-op and car rentals when we need a car and get around the rest of the time by bus and cycling and walking or carpooling with others. So our sustainable transportation team focuses on how to make it easier and more appealing for Manitobans of all ages and abilities and neighborhoods to walk, bike, bus, or carpool rather than driving alone. And we know it's not always easy to make that choice as our communities have been built around the car. So we provide guidance and events and resources to help address some of those barriers, whether you're trying to get to work or to school or simply moving around your community. Another role we play is to advocate for more and better infrastructure and planning related to walking, cycling, and transit, which we do by sitting on various committees and participating in policy development processes at all levels of government. And I'm sure most of you on this call know this, but transportation represents the second largest contributor to overall greenhouse gas emissions in Manitoba, and personal transportation makes up the bulk of that. So it's really important that we reduce our overall amount of driving and choose vehicles that are lower emitting, both as individuals and collectively. because unfortunately, the last 10 years have seen an increase in transportation emissions, in part because there are more vehicles on the road, personal vehicles, but also because there's been a switch in preferences for vehicles. It used to be sedans were the most popular, but that has changed to SUVs and trucks, which are much higher emitting vehicles. And they've also gotten bigger and heavier. So I'm thrilled to see how much progress has been made in Winnipeg over the past 10 years in relation to walking and cycling, but we still have a very, very long way to go, and the pace is so slow, it really needs to be faster. So it's exciting to be part of that, and it's rewarding to hear from people who have started cycling to work because of the commuter challenge, or they started carpooling because they found a partner on Go Manitoba. And I love this one story of a student who learned in the bike education and skills training course that you always stay to the right on a roundabout. He noted that his mom always goes left through the roundabout when she wants to turn left. So he added, now I can tell her how to do it right. So I thought that was cute. But so some tips, if you are new to this or you want to encourage some friends or family or colleagues to make some transportation behavior changes, a beginner tip would be to switch one trip a week from driving to walking, cycling, or riding the bus. And that could be to work or school or the park or visit friends or go shopping. We have in May Bike Everywhere Month, which used to be our Bike to School month, but because of COVID has been changed to Bike Everywhere Month. That's coming up in May, so that's a great opportunity. And then in the beginning of June, we have the annual Commuter Challenge, which has also been adjusted to include all trips, including recreation this year because of COVID. And for those who want maybe a bigger challenge, would be to commit for 1 month to not drive alone. You could walk or bike for short trips and bus or carpool with others for longer ones. So there's some ideas, and I appreciate that things are different right now because of COVID. There are great tips on our website in terms of how to keep safe when riding transit or carpooling. So I encourage you to check those out or join us in the breakout room for that. And now I'll hand it over to Giuseppe.
Okay, thank you very much, Beth. Well, my name is Giuseppe Ceres-Gubert, and I'm the Sustainability Projects Coordinator here at Green Action Center. Something about me, well, I'm originally from a Mediterranean town near Barcelona, Spain. And I moved to Canada 5 years ago after having a crash on Kelly, my wife now, walking the Camino Trail in Spain, and that moves me to Manitoba. Sorry, I have to make a small pause because there is a plane. Okay. Yeah, then something more about me. It's my professional background goes from industrial design to creativity in education and environmental projects. Yeah, and well, the Sustainability Projects area at Green Action Center, the main activity that we have is to perform green audits. Initially, we started 1.5 years ago with performing green audits at youth agencies, and now we are opening to all kinds of different organizations. Basically, what we do, we help these organizations to reduce the impact of their operations and services from a climate change and climate adaptation perspective. In other words, what we are doing is we try, or we help them to find ways to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions through 2 different ways. One is environmental education, and the other one is climate actions. With that, that's the way that we find these organizations can reduce their impact. Then the green audit steps, very simple. The first one, we create environmental awareness sessions, and then we create an earth team internally. The project has to be led from inside the organization. The earth team is key for the success of the green audit. The next step is analyze and assess all the areas of the organization that have impact. Knowing that, we can develop and deliver. Another plane. I'm sorry about that. We develop and deliver an action plan, always develop and design with the green team. The green team, excuse me, the earth team, that is this internal team. Okay, that, it seems that it can happen only in organizations. No, this is something that can be done everywhere. Workplaces, schools, communities, our own homes. We can do that. We can do something to reduce our impact. Because of that, I'm going to give you a couple of ideas. One more for beginners, another one more for veterans. No? The first one, you can keep a bucket like that close to your shower. Then, with this bucket, you can harvest this cold water that you run before the shower gets hot. It's a basic thing to do, but doing that, you can skip one toilet flush. Good. Doing that every day, in 1 year, you can save 1,000 liters of water. Well, if we know that 1/3 of the world's population doesn't have access to drinkable water, or well, even here in Canada, there are more than 40 First Nation communities that they have water advisories. That makes you think, but at the same time, can make you think, okay, I can do something, and whatever I do can have an impact. Because of that, is so important to understand. Understanding and awareness is key in this world. It's what we can do today or day, no, every single day we can do this kind of thing. We can do this and more, whatever we want to do. The second one, more ambitious, but why not? It's possible too, is to run in your house an energy audit and a water audit. You can do it more complex or more simple. There are tons of different resources. If not, you can contact with me and I can give you simple resources to run this audit. And you can have an enlightenment of basic energy enlightenment of things that you can do to improve the impact that you are doing. And then I pass the word to Robin from Compost Winnipeg. Thank you. Even if you have questions, we can talk later. Thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, I'm so pleased to be here to talk about Green Action Center's social enterprise. We have a lot of very strong education and resources that you can use to do composting in your backyard. And we strongly encourage you to explore that option if you haven't already. But what we're about is trying to make that composting accessible to everyone across the city, because as we all know, and I really like the question here about what about the whole policy environment and support for this stuff. We got to see composting happening all across the city and address that 50% of our waste that comes from organic waste. And so in the breakout sessions after, if you want to talk about either how you can sign up to our service or how kind of you can work with Compost Winnipeg on creating just more momentum and more drive toward that citywide collection, getting more businesses involved with it. We're really looking to scale that up as quickly as we can, and really exciting to talk about how we might do that together. And so with that, I'll pass it off to Tracy to get started on the Q&A.
Thanks, Robin, and thanks everybody. So yeah, I'm going to jump right into the questions because we had a number of them that were actually sent to us in advance of the session, and then there were also some more that came through in the chat. A couple of them are related, so I'll try to combine them together. And if we don't get to your question, remember there's time to talk about it in the breakout sessions as well. So I'm going to start with one, which is, what are some of your tips for green living during a pandemic that pushes disposable everything? And I think, Colleen, this one's for you.
Thank you, Tracy. And thank you to whoever asked this question. So one downside of the pandemic that we have seen among many is that, single-use plastic is definitely the norm now. There was a big movement towards, using your reusable bags before, and a lot of people are a little scared to bring that back into their home now. There are a lot of ways around that, though. You can always wash your cloth bags in between uses, your produce bags, things like that. Unfortunately, we also see a lot of disposable masks lying around. So using a reusable mask, you can get filters, medical grade alternatives that you can still reuse time and time again and reduce your waste that way. And just taking a lot of the tips that we've shared here today and just, being mindful and being safe, staying cleanly and hygienic, and you can still incorporate those into your life. It doesn't mean that you have to be scared to take the bus. You can still sanitize and everything afterwards. So, or go for a walk and go for a bike instead, kind of thing. So just knowing that as much of a setback as this may seem, there's so much opportunity to grow through this.
Thank you. And I would also add that we do have a great little DIY make your own mask video on our YouTube channel that folks can also access if you want to try that out. The next question this one is for Teresa. How long can red wiggler worms live in your vermicompost bin if there's no food left?
Yeah, good question. I get that one a lot when I'm doing presentations with kids. How long do they live? How long does it take between feeding them? The answer is not super satisfying. It's kind of it depends. What it sounds like the questioner is probably getting at is how long can I walk away and leave my bin for? So what I would say is that once you've fed your bin, if you have a healthy bin with a good number of worms, give it a good feed and you should be able to walk away for at least 2 weeks. If you're going to be gone longer, try not to push it past a month. That's probably the outside that I would give it of a healthy bin. And if you are going to be away from the bin for that long, then throw in some really long lasting food like corn cobs are a really good example because it takes a long time for those to break down enough to get to the point where the worms will eat them. So I hope that kind of answers the question. Don't abandon your bin in your classroom for the whole summer. But if you're going away for 2 weeks, feed it up really well and they should be okay when you get back.
Great, thanks, Teresa. And I am going to ask this next question of Robin. It's kind of a combo question of somebody who sent something in advance and then something in the chat. So it is, what's going on with residential compost pickup in Winnipeg and which neighborhoods are currently being serviced? So I'm assuming this is related to the city's current collection pilot that's going on, and what will it take to achieve citywide coverage? And that question also ties into something in the chat, which was, what are we doing to advocate for municipal curbside composting in Winnipeg? And maybe Robin, Teresa could jump in on that too, depending on where we get to.
Sure. Yeah, those are really great questions. And so, yeah, we were all excited to see the announcement of the pilot project. So 4,000 households participating in that or had the opportunity to through the city's collection program. And there are a number of wards at Lindenwoods, St. George, Inkster, Mission Gardens, and Daniel McIntyre, kind of spread out through the city. And so in conjunction with that, Compost Winnipeg's residential service has become more and more popular. We tend to add anywhere from 30 to 50 new customers every month, and just really seeing it take off. So really the way I see it, Compost Winnipeg is we're really focused on providing a high quality service and giving data back to residents and commercial clients about their waste diversion activities, and trying to constantly improve our service and spread the word about it. But at the same time, we see it as there will be a public consultation coming up next summer on the results of the pilot project. And so that's how we really see our role, is building up this momentum. We're getting more residents just signing up to support Compost Winnipeg and support the Green Action Center through signing up for residential waste collection. And then also getting more businesses signed up. And we hope that momentum will generate a lot of a base of support. So when the city comes back and asks, should we take that big step and do citywide collection, then the answer is a resounding yes. And so that's what we would like to get people started up with. And I'll pass it off to Teresa if you have anything else to say about that.
Yeah, I think I can add to that. Robin, I see in the chat, part of the question is around cost. And that's something that we've been aware of as a program for a long time, that access to composting it's an intersectional issue. People live in multifamily buildings. People have different abilities in their bodies. People have different financial capabilities. So we've been fighting for years, advocating with the city, meetings, we've done postcard campaigns, we've been really constantly pushing as much as we can to have a citywide curbside composting, because and to have that done in a way that isn't financially going to harm people who are lower income, but in a way that makes composting accessible to everybody, because it's the easiest way to compost. So we're very on board. It would be a dream come true to finally get that curbside composting up and running for the whole city. And there's always more to be done. If you want to see curbside composting, please be the squeaky wheel. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. We don't have it now because there were some squeaky wheels who complained to city councilors and were really concerned. So if you complain that we don't have it, maybe it will come in faster. I see a technical composting question from Bethany that I'll answer later.
Perfect. Yeah. And I would just add very quickly too, that we have at Green Action Center been pushing for a full organics ban at the landfill as part of that, but there's all, processes that have to be in place for that to happen. So that's what we're talking about now. Okay. I'm mindful of time because I want to leave enough time for everybody to get into the breakout sessions and have some deeper conversations. There were a few other questions that I think will be great for discussion in there. One is related to emissions around people working from home and whether emissions have, come down or not and gone up. And there's been a few responses in the chat box around that, but you can continue to have that conversation in one of the breakout rooms, and also one on how hard it is to do to refuse, particularly around plastics, and how we're always needing to ask, for somebody not to have something, and how do we get restaurants and other places to actually stop giving out plastic. So that's a great, I think, discussion item to take into the room with the Living Green, Living Well panel with Colleen. So maybe I'll leave it at that right now. And Colleen, you can take us into the breakout rooms.
Yes, thank you, Tracy. Before we head there, I'm just going to announce the winner of our 3-month subscription service to Compost Winnipeg, and that is Verilyn Workington. So Verilyn, if you're on the call right now, congratulations.
Well, maybe I'll jump back to the wrap up. I'm mindful of time. I know everyone has busy schedules, and very grateful that you've been with us over the lunch hour. So I hope that you had a really great discussion in your breakout room. I know we didn't have a ton of time, but hopefully you at least got to get into a couple of things and to learn something new today from one of our panelists that you can try to incorporate into your routine. Now, before we leave, we actually have one last activity for you. And I believe Colleen was putting a link into the chat box, and you should be able to click on that and then add your response. You can enter one word or a phrase that captures the commitment that you'll make today, or that you think you would like to make to help make Earth Day every day. And all of this input is going to end up creating a word cloud for us. And we will make sure to share this with everybody who registered when we do our follow-up email with you, if you can't stick around to see how this is developing. The other thing I wanted to say before we wrap up is if you're interested in learning more ways to live green, I encourage you to download our Green Living Guide. I can also actually put that into the chat box and we'll email it to you as well. It should take you directly. We have this document right on our website. And of course, if you're not already subscribed to our Living Green e-newsletter that goes out every month, I highly encourage you to do that. We've got lots of great stuff in there in terms of events that are coming up, and definitely we've already talked about a couple of those today. It's International Compost Awareness Week in the first week of May, and we're doing some presentations around that. Plastic Free July is coming up as well over the summertime, and we have our Commuter Challenge, which is in National Environmental Week, and Clean Air Day and Bike to School Month, which is youth focused and workplace focused. So lots of great stuff that's coming up that you can tie into, and it's also just a great resource in terms of things that are going on, changes that are happening externally that are topical and timely around the environment. Really, I think that is it from me. We're at 1 o'clock. I do want to thank you all again so much for being here. And also, of course, a big thank you to our panelists, and to say happy Earth Day. And I hope you get outside and get to enjoy this beautiful day.